A 75-pound golden retriever sat in a shelter for 619 days. Nobody wanted him because he couldn't hear a single word. Then a mother walked in, carrying a baby who would never hear either. What happened between those two on the night of April 3rd at exactly 3:17 in the morning is something no doctor has been able to fully explain. But Sarah doesn't need an explanation. She just needs people to hear it. The shelter listed him as unadoptable. Not dangerous, not aggressive, not broken in any of the ways that make people cross to the other side of the hallway when they walk past a kennel. Cooper was a 75-pound golden retriever with a coat the color of late afternoon sun and eyes that followed you around a room like he was memorizing you for later. He was unadoptable because he couldn't hear a single word you said. Congenital deafness. Born that way, the vet noted in his file, probably from the first week. He had been surrendered at age 2 by a family who said they had tried everything, that the training wasn't working, that he didn't listen, that they couldn't keep a dog who couldn't hear commands. What they didn't say, what nobody said, because nobody thought to say it, was that Cooper had developed his own system. He watched, constantly, carefully, with the focused attention of someone who had learned early that sound was not going to be available to him and had decided to use everything else instead. He watched faces, he watched hands, he watched the way a body shifted its weight before it moved, the way eyes changed before a mood did. He had been at Millbrook Animal Rescue for 619 days when Sarah walked in. Sarah was 31 years old and 7 months pregnant. She was also, as of 4 weeks earlier, the mother of a child who would never hear her voice the way she had imagined. The diagnosis had come at a routine prenatal appointment: bilateral sensory neural hearing loss, profound, both ears. The geneticist had been kind. The pamphlets had been thorough. Her husband, James, had held her hand in the parking lot for a long time without saying anything. She didn't tell people why she had started volunteering at the shelter on Saturday mornings. She told them it was to get out of the house, to stay active, to do something useful with the weeks before the baby came. But the truth was simpler and harder to say out loud. She was trying to figure out how to love someone she couldn't reach the way she had planned to. And being around animals, creatures who communicated entirely without words, felt, in a way she couldn't fully explain, like practice. She had been volunteering for 3 Saturdays when she met Cooper. He was in the last kennel on the left, lying on his side, one paw draped over the edge of his bed, watching the door with those amber eyes. The shelter coordinator, a woman named Beth, stopped in front of his kennel and said what she always said: "He's deaf, completely. A lot of people walk past him for that reason." Sarah didn't walk past him. She crouched down and pressed her hand flat against the kennel bars. Cooper lifted his head. He looked at her hand, then he looked at her face. Really looked, the way he looked at everything, reading it carefully, finding the things that sound would normally carry. And then he stood up, walked to the bars, and pressed his nose against her palm. Sarah looked up at Beth with wet eyes. "We'll take him," she said. The first 2 weeks were a learning curve for everyone. Cooper didn't respond to his name being called, didn't react to the door opening or closing, startled sometimes when touched from behind, which required a new household rule: always approach from the front, always let him see you first. But what Cooper lacked in hearing, he made up for in attention. He learned Sarah's routines within days: the time she woke up, the direction she walked first in the morning, the specific way she moved when she was tired versus when she was anxious versus when she was simply thinking. He built a map of her, not from sound, but from everything sound usually drowns out. He watched. James watched this and said one evening, "He's reading you." Sarah nodded. "I know." "I see you're still watching but haven't subscribed yet. That honestly stings a little. Hit subscribe. You'll want to see what comes next." Eli was born on a Friday morning in February. The hearing loss was confirmed again at the newborn screening. Both ears profound, exactly as predicted. They brought Eli home on a Sunday. James carried the car seat through the front door, and Cooper was waiting in the hallway. Sitting perfectly still, tail moving in slow, careful arcs, eyes fixed on the carrier. James set it down. Cooper walked over. He sniffed the edge, then the air above it. Then he looked up at Sarah with an expression she would describe later to anyone who asked as recognition. Not curiosity, not confusion. Recognition, like something had just confirmed what he had already suspected. He lay down beside the car seat and didn't move for the rest of the afternoon. From that first day, Cooper operated on a system no one taught him and no one could fully explain. Because Eli couldn't hear, he didn't cry the way most newborns cry. His distress signals were subtler, easier to miss. A change in breathing, a shift in movement, a particular stillness that meant something was wrong. Every time Eli stirred in the night, Cooper was on his feet before the baby monitor showed any movement. He would walk to the bassinet and stand beside it, then turn and look at Sarah, not barking, not whining, just looking, with those careful, watching eyes, until she woke up. James started calling it the alert system, the one that never slept deeply enough to miss anything. The moment that stays with Sarah happened on a night in April. Eli was 3 months old. It was 3:17 in the morning. Cooper jumped onto the bed, something he had never done before, not once in 8 months, and stood over Sarah with his front paws on either side of her shoulders, staring at her face from 6 inches away until she opened her eyes. She found Eli blue, not breathing correctly. A mucus blockage, the ER doctor explained later, common in infants, dangerous if missed. They had caught it, he said, very early. He asked what had woken her. She looked at James. James looked at the floor. She said, "The dog." A dog who couldn't hear saved a baby who couldn't hear. 2 creatures the world had quietly decided were limited, were less than, had found each other in a shelter hallway and built something the rest of the world didn't have a word for yet. Sarah thinks about what Beth said that first Saturday. A lot of people walk past him for that reason. She thinks about all the people who walked past Kennel 14 and kept going, who looked at a deaf golden retriever and saw a limitation instead of a language. Cooper didn't need sound to love Eli. He never did. He just needed someone to stop walking and stay. And sometimes the ones the world calls limited are the only ones paying close enough attention to save it. Do you believe some connections go beyond what we can explain? Or is this just a dog doing what dogs do? Tell me in the comments.